Hi there, my name is Macy West. I am just finishing my junior year studying painting and drawing. Studio art is my major, but I'm also getting a minor in biology, and I was very thankful to be able to use this project, which I've entitled Dreaming of Hermanus, to explore those two interests, which in many situations don't overlap at all, the art and the science. But I was able to use both my interests to explore the impact of human perception of light and color on design through this research and design. Um, so the goal of this project was to create this installation, which I have pictured on the far left. You can see how the walls look from the outside, and then I have 5 paintings that I made for this project hung inside. And I wanted to study, based on environmental psychology principles, how people would respond to this kind of art installation. But before I go into that, I just want you a little tour um, of what the installation looks like. Here's a view from above, so you can see the 4 sides. And then here is a quick video. You walk you through this gap, and then you can see hanging on these walls that are 7 feet high are 5 paintings, all 5 feet high. So they hang up about at eye level, so they're above your head. There's swinging back to the doorway, swinging back around, so you get to see all 4 sides. Anyways, I designed this on principles of physiology and psychology. So I, through my research, concluded that these 3, the research of Dak Kopek, the theory of ideal environments, and the work of the painter Mark Rothko, could really impact how I do my design and how I evaluate how people respond to my work. So first of all, Dak Kopek is an environmental psychologist and architect and lecturer, and he talks a lot about how you can design to meet your audience's needs. So environmental psychology studies how people respond to their environment, whether it's natural or built, and he's talking about how if you understand the psychology, you can design successfully to meet their needs or to know and get them to respond the way you expect that they will. So in making a comfortable environment for them, for example. He gave 2 examples in a lecture that I watched where he concluded that you can be designing with bright contrasting colors for 2 very different age groups, but for kind of a similar reason. If you understand the physiology and the psychology of the person you're designing for, whether you're designing for a nursery for a young child where their eyes are not fully developed for the first weeks, months, and even up to 8 years of their life, you would want to design with bright contrasting colors so that they can understand their environment and feel comfortable and stimulate learning. And then also, if you're designing for an Alzheimer's home, like he was, he talked about how you wouldn't want to use neutral colors like this image on the right, because Alzheimer's patients are usually elderly and have progressively worse eyesight as their lens on their eye gets discolored. And if they aren't understanding their environment, that can spike a unhealthy response based on how their Alzheimer's brain is functioning, and they won't understand their environment and they will react in a way that could be damaging to themselves. So you want to have an environment for both of these people that is bright and contrasting colors. So all that to say, Dak Kopek is pointing out that designers can study both psychology and physiology and then use the knowledge that they glean as a design tool to guarantee the desired response from the user or viewer. Speaking of environments, there's the idea of the ideal environment, which is this environmental psychology principle that if you combine unity, legibility, complexity, and mystery, you can get an environment that people want to be in. They can understand it's legible, but it's complex and mysterious enough that it holds their interest and they want to stay and understand their environment or what they're looking at. Finally, I looked at Mark Rothko's work, the abstract expressionist painter. He said, it is widely accepted notion among painters that it does not matter what one paints as long as it is well painted. This is the essence of academism. There is no such thing as a good painting about nothing. So Mark Rothko disagreed with this idea that you can paint about nothing. You need to have meaning in your paintings, and he eventually was doing these color field abstract paintings like the one on the left, orange and tan, and you can see the size of it from the image on the right. That's not the same painting, but it's one of his paintings. They're taller than he is, and he wanted the viewers to look at the pieces from very close up. From 18 inches was what he specified as his viewing distance, and that puts the edges of the paintings beyond the viewer's peripheral and gives them this kind of immersive experience with the work. And then the meaning that the painting derives from that experience is the viewer's emotional response. So I wanted to combine three ideas in my work. The idea of designing to meet an audience emotional response, the idea of an interesting, complex, ideal environment, and the idea of specifying viewing distance to see if I could elicit an emotional response from the viewer. So I made these 5 paintings. Here's 2 of them, which I entitled Dreaming of Hermanus Paintings, about a very vivid memory in my past. I used to live overseas in South Africa, and we would go to this beach town called Hermanus, and I just have very vivid, vibrant memories, but they're kind of fragmented and discontinuous, even though my senses and the memories, my sight and smell and taste and stuff, the senses are very vibrant. So I made these 5 paintings. Most people have a memory that they can relate to that has the kind of like sensual experience. Here's the third one, and the last 2. Those 5 paintings I installed in that installation I showed you at the beginning, and I hypothesized that people, when they're viewing so many colors on large paintings from up close, these kind of like abstract works, that they would probably feel overwhelmed, because our brains want to understand it as a whole. And if you're up close inside a box that you can only view the work from inside a box, you can't really understand it as a whole, because you can't see the whole thing without turning in space and then not being able to see what you were just looking at a second ago. So I thought that people would probably feel overwhelmed, maybe anxious, awed by the size of the work, but hopefully interested, like an ideal environment should make you feel. So I developed a survey questionnaire type thing for my viewers to look at, both during and after viewing the work. I had them track their eye movements. I gave an example from looking at this Mark Rothko, how you could look at how your eye moves around the painting to kind of identify which areas of the painting spark your interest the most, which are the most moving. And then I had them select from this list of 27 emotions, the emotions that they felt while looking at the piece, so that I could identify trends in the viewers' responses to the paintings. As far as my results go, I was pleased to be able to see the development of some patterns. Some common responses to the paintings were admiration, awe, calmness, confusion, entrancement, aesthetic appreciation, amusement, and interest. And multiple people said that they wish they could see the paintings from further back, which was the goal. I wanted people to respond to the work saying and feeling that they couldn't take it all in, that they were overwhelmed, because that was my prediction. As far as moving forward this piece, definitely there's some things that I would need to evaluate and readjust. The biggest one being that the eye movements, sorry, that's the second biggest one. The eye movements were difficult to get conclusive data about. I probably would need to use technology to get better results. But the biggest one that I would want to change about this is I really need a larger sample size to see if these patterns are something that I really think are things that I can have confident, clear results about. Due to the pandemic of COVID-19, I was supposed to have 60 people as my sample size. I was only able to have 7. So I want to be able to see if the patterns I'm thinking are there are actually there, as well as maybe adding some additional elements like light or sound to exaggerate the painting's color and structural elements. But all that to say, as I continue researching and getting people's responses, I'll be able to see and analyze the patterns that emerge. But I've definitely been able to, I think, explore the import of the impact of environmental psychology and light and color on design.